Hello, welcome to Cackling Hags, a podcast with two girlies from the Midwest with too many thoughts to keep to ourselves.
Join us as we discuss the intersections of all things Bravo, pop culture, sports, progressive politics, and anything else that comes to our minds.
I'm Beth, one of your co hosts, one of your main hags, joined here with our other co host and main hag, the one and only Allie. How's it going, Allie?
Well, not the greatest start to 2024. I know I was on here our last episode talking about how I was gonna set all these goals and intentions, and instead I started the year with COVID.
Oh,
So,
no.
a little bit behind on getting those things started, but I'm giving myself some grace because COVID. But I'm feeling much better than I have been the last few days, so I am happy to be here.
I am
What about
so sorry to hear about COVID. Oh my gosh. I Be safe out there, y'all. Like COVID is good. There's a new variant going around. I know at least two other people who have it right now. So, and I mean, it seems like it tends to spike in the winter. So,
do with that what you
very
will?
yeah, do with that what you will. But hags and haglets, I hope that all of y'all are doing well and are having a better start to the year than Allie is. If you're one of my friends who is listening, I know that you're also recovering from COVID. So I hope that y'all are staying safe and healthy. But first off, we just want to extend a sincere thank you to everyone who's listening. From what I gather, it's mostly our friends and loved ones who probably hear a lot of what we talk about in our day to day lives. So we really, really appreciate you all taking the time to listen and giving us feedback. And shout out to the five of you who've given us 5-star reviews. And we would love it so much if you all would send this to your friends, to your fellow hags and haglets who love to cackle and or commiserate about all things Bravo, pop culture, sports, progressive politics. It doesn't have to be all of those things. But if they get a kick out of, hearing other people do deep dives and, just give our thoughts and go from time to time go on unhinged rants, which there will not be any of that today. Then yeah, send it to your fellow hags and haglets.
Yeah, this is a hobby of ours. But we as we talked about last time, we do want to, kind of expand more into this and expand our platform here in 2024. Our dream come true would be able to have somebody help us with the tech stuff because honestly, that is not our forte and it is a huge time suck. But we of course love doing this. So thank you all for tuning in thus far.
Yeah, and if you all have probably already picked up that the tech stuff isn't our forte, especially if you've listened to all of the episodes. I mean, our evolution, it's right there. It's right there documented. So, I think that we've done a pretty good with the learning curve. But yeah, we definitely would love to get some people helping us and to go to BravoCon.
Oh yeah.
Um,
That's the
yeah,
ultimate
that's
goal.
like a goal. That's like the ultimate goal is to get some sponsorships for BravoCon, but it's tough, you guys, because there's so many Bravo content creators and they're all brilliant. So it's like we can't really distinguish ourselves in this oversaturated Bravo market, which is why we want to intertwine the progressive politics and sports and pop culture and really focus on those intersections. So it's niche, but it's also relatable. And that's why we need your help to be like, oh my gosh, like, did you know that this is a podcast who isn't afraid to talk about progressive politics and to stand up for Palestine when a lot of the other, and I don't mean this in a shady way, it's just kind of how big podcasting works, but a lot of the other podcasters aren't going to talk about those stuff. So, or that stuff. So even though it's niche, it's relatable to the right people. So really appreciate y'all help getting the word out because the main way to get the word out other than word of mouth is on like TikTok and YouTube and stuff like that. And I'll be honest, that's just like a nut that Allie and I have not cracked yet.
Yeah, that is I'm a longtime lurker on TikTok, but not a creator. So,
Yeah.
and YouTube, I know there's a lot of people who are into YouTube, and that's a huge like place to get your podcast to really take off. And um, I don't spend time on YouTube. So, yeah, if anybody in any of our listeners are, savvy with any of those, please reach out.
Yeah, or even if y'all know how to give us, like, a little jingle, like like an intro song. I'm like, how weird is it to listen to a podcast where we're just like, "Welcome to Cackling Hags," when all of the other podcasts I listen to have, the song and the jingle or whatever. So if anyone would love to just, like, give us some advice, and we will pay you someday once we get there. But yeah, right now we're all just kind of scrapping at this. But all that to say is we really appreciate you listening and hanging in there with us. But before we get to our chit chat today, I've got some really important business that I just kind of need to clarify. I need to issue a big and important amendment to my 2023 moments. So a listener wrote in, AKA, she texted me because it's one of my closest friends. Hi, Callie. And gave me some very blunt feedback, which I appreciate. Feedback is very important to us, especially at this stage in the game. And said that she was disappointed that I did not talk about Nebraska women's volleyball setting the world attendance record in 2023. And she's so right. Honestly, that's all I should have mentioned in my, I kind of conflated Nebraska sports into one. And honestly, our volleyball team should have just been the headliner, especially with that. So I wouldn't have issued an amendment if it wasn't so significant, but I just wanted to issue that amendment and, just celebrate how incredible it was to be a Nebraska volleyball fan this season.
Yeah, and I'm definitely glad you mentioned it. It's awesome to see women's sports doing so well, especially here in the Midwest. I know I was watching Nebraska volleyball on TV at a bar in Iowa when I was there for work. So it's really great to see them getting the love and support they deserve. So I'm glad you brought that up. Um, all right, so Hags and Haglets. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different since I'm under the weather, and we're going to make it a little bit more bite sized, kind of a round robin of what's happened in the last week since we spoke. So this is a very special hackle free episode. So many funny things have happened since we last talked. And Beth and I have been texting about it, and we're like, oh, we should have waited to do this. So we wanted to pull together and just do a quick podcast in this short time period to talk about all the funny things that have happened and just cackle at them. So I am going to kick us off with the number one, I think, funniest thing to happen in college football in a very long time, and that is the Pop Tart Bowl. Oh my goodness. I know I talked about it last week. It was a great game. K-State won it, but that is not, I mean, I was most excited about that, but that
We
was not what
talked
the
about it
internet.
last week, but we could not have predicted how this would
No.
have swept the nation. It swept the nation.
Yeah, so for those of you who didn't see, there was a dancing Pop-Tart mascot that went into a toaster and then came out, and K-State, because they won, got to eat the Pop-Tart. It was just the memes were amazing. The jokes wrote themselves. It was a great time on the internet, and everybody really loved that Pop Tart, and so did I. So, I mean, there's not much more to say about it. There was a giant dancing Pop Tart. It's too good.
It's it was like a fever dream, honestly. Like, everyone was just loving it. Like you said, there were a lot of memes, and I'm really excited because I have still seen memes, and it's been almost a week, I guess, maybe not quite a week,
Mhm.
but it's been a minute. It's been a few days, and I'm like, okay, maybe this thing like has some legs. Like, let's keep the Pop Tart going. Let's not let the Pop Tart die. But
Oh yeah.
even my friends who I think may also be listeners who are not sports people at all, like, could not tell you what a second down was, were sharing memes about the Pop Tart. So I just want to say hats off to that marketing person.
Oh my
You earned your paycheck. Go ask for a raise because I feel like that is such an important skill set for a marketing person to have the vision to be like, what is going to get, what is going to really expand our reach and get the non-sports people talking about this.
Yep. They
A tough
succeeded.
part.
They
They
sure
did.
did succeed. Oh man, it was fantastic. What's your one of your cackles this week?
Well, I'm going to start off with Gypsy Rose. And by now, a lot of you have you heard about Gypsy Rose? I mean, how could you not have?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Yeah. So it's my new fixation. And I'll be honest, I probably knew who she was at one point and forgot about her. But I felt a little bit out of the loop with people who, like, there is a group of people who've been like anticipating this release, who've been following this story since the very beginning. And so I'm sure a lot of you know by now. And, content warning, it's like, kind of weird to talk about this in such a cavalier way because the material is very, very disturbing and heavy. So, content warning for abuse, for Munchausen's by proxy, for any sort of child abuse, and also sexual assault, because that is also involved in the Gypsy Rose case. But we learned that Gypsy Rose got released from prison. I forget the exact day. I think it was December 23rd,
Saturday. It was a
Saturday.
yeah.
Okay. It was a Saturday. And Gypsy Rose is this crime occurred in Springfield, Missouri. So it's another Missouri thing that we just get to add to our trophy case of things that happen in Missouri. But basically, Gypsy Rose is a victim of Munchausen's by proxy, where somebody takes, like, inflicts a disease, either exaggerates or actually inflicts diseases on someone to take care of them in order to gain attention. And so there's a spectrum of these things. It could be anywhere from like exaggeration, like telling Allie that Sport has cancer, to actually giving Sports things that make him sick. Sport is my dog. And so in Gypsy Rose's case, her mom, very mentally unwell, was inflicting Gypsy with substances that actually made her sick, and also brainwashed Gypsy, manipulated Gypsy to make Gypsy follow along with the act. Like, remember, you can't walk, and made Gypsy act younger than she was. And just a lot of very disturbing things. I'm going to kind of skip those and get to why this was such a splash. In the end, her boyfriend at the time, who is a very disturbed individual, I'll just let y'all look it up, but he killed Gypsy Rose's mother. And Gypsy was also sentenced for, being involved with it and, signing off on it. They planned on it. First degree murder, I think, is what they call it. But the court recognized that this was a very unique case where Gypsy was a victim, an extreme victim. So her sentencing was, in the words of the public defender, because I don't want to get into any conversation about the prison industrial complex or the carceral system, but in the words of the public defender, Gypsy's sentencing was as fair as it could have been. Who was defending Gypsy? So it's kind of like a rare instance where the public defender and the defense and the prosecution and the judge all agreed, like, whoa, she shouldn't be paying for this for the rest of her life. Like, she was severely abused. And Gypsy Rose's mother's family are like, they're not sad that she's dead. They're like, thank God. I mean, it's chilling. So like, the more you dig into it, and it's one of those things, like, do it at your own pace. If it's stuff that, there's a lot of disturbing stuff in there. But Gypsy Rose got released from prison, and it just like created the splash on the internet because there's been documentaries about her. And then it was revealed that she was a Taylor Swift fan, and then she wanted to go to a Chiefs game. And I think I missed that piece. I think I missed the anticipation that Gypsy Rose might go to a Chiefs game. I just saw a headline that said Gypsy Rose is no longer going to a Chiefs game. The state of Missouri asked her to leave. And I was like, what timeline are we living in? This is such a bizarre timeline. And then I was just like envisioning like the
She's
shots
been
of
talking
Gypsy
about
Rose.
she's been talking about trying to meet Taylor Swift since yeah, like you said, this anticipation has been building for a long time. And I remember there was like interviews she's done, and they were like, "What's like your number one goal when you're released?" And she's like, "Meet Taylor Swift," or like something along those lines. Like this has been a thing building.
Wow,
So,
Allie knows more about this than I do. Yeah, so she's
oh,
not a bandwagon Swiftie, like she's a
no,
true
she's
Swiftie.
been a Swiftie. Yeah, she's
Wow.
an interesting person, needless to say. So, yeah,
Yeah,
like Beth said, dig into that at your own risk, or if you haven't heard of it, I'd be
yeah. Just
surprised
kind
because
of a goofy thing that happened. And the last thing I'll say is that there's been some clickbait going around that she's distantly related to Stassi Schroeder on Vanderpump Rules, which I read
wow,
it and it's like dating back to 1600. Is that really even a timeline?
no, that doesn't count.
Yeah,
Not at all.
not at all. All right,
Um,
Allie, what's next on your list?
So I both both of my next two things come from New Year's Eve. So I didn't see them the night it happened, but I saw them both on the internet the next day. And for those of you who didn't see, Green Day performed at one of the New Year's Eve shows. I can't remember exactly which, and changed the words to the song "American Idiot." Instead of "I don't want to be a part of your redneck agenda," they changed it to "mega agenda," and people lost their minds. But it's like, if you're losing your mind over that, you've obviously never listened to the song in the first place or know anything about Green Day, because the song is called American Idiot and it was
Yeah.
released during the Bush years. Like, what are you
Yeah.
so it was just watching people have meltdowns about dumb stuff is like one of my is like, watching conservatives lose their shit about stuff that is just like when they lost it about Rage Against the Machine, and it's like, do you know the machine they're raging against? Like, what are
It's
you
that's hilarious. I feel like protest music is like the ultimate gotcha for conservatives because they're like, jamming out to it and then they listen to the lyrics and they're like, wait.
but they don't actually listen. Somebody has to like tell
Right.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like when
they
my
don't come to conclusions on their own.
Yeah, and I don't think I've shared this much on the pod, but my dad is a conservative and he went through this very bizarre Pink phase. Like Pink, like the the singer Pink, where he would like watch DVDs of Pink and then one day he turned against her because she had a protest song about George Bush and is an animal rights activist. I'm like, well, yeah, dad, no shit.
Oh, gotta love it. Gotta
Oh
love it.
man. Um Did you wanna do your next? Did you say you wanna do your next one? Because it's the
No, you can
same?
do I
Okay.
mean, we could go for yours because that one is yours is pretty I'm
It's pretty
excited.
big. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I this is, like, almost a me and Allie shared one. Like, I put it on here and I'm like, "We're gonna share this." So
Yeah.
and for those of you who are not Bravo heads, you're going to be a little bit lost, but just humor us for a minute, as Patrick would say. Just humor us. So, the most iconic episode of the Real Housewives franchise was aired on Tuesday nights. And this is another like fever dream of a plot where it's the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Traditionally, the Real Housewives have been in cities like New
New York,
York, Atlanta, Orange County, Beverly Hills, that all kind of
Miami.
have like Miami, New Jersey, even though New Jersey is in a little bit of its own thing, but cities that obviously have like luxury and leisure and kind of their own like aesthetics and brand and obvious, like crazy rich women. And
Mhm.
then they decided to do Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and the entire fan base was a little sus. They were like, "Why would we go to Utah? Like, what's in Utah?"
And
And
then we get to
so
our first season and it's chaos. Like, the first season was somebody saying that, there's a fight because somebody said they smell like hospital. There's things being thrown and the best part is it takes place in the winter. So like these women are all wearing these like ridiculous winter coats all the time, but then also like getting out of these like fancy cars and their massive high heels. So it's just like it's insane. Like you would it's just you would never have thought it would be as good as it was. And season 1 was really good. And then it kind of took a hit. And then it really came back swinging when one of the women in the show, Jen Shaw, was arrested on camera by like the FBI.
Mhm.
Like it was crazy. So yeah, we had a little downturn there. Jen gets arrested, continues taping the show, which everybody was like, that's a little
That's
suspect.
weird. Yeah,
Like,
and she got
taking
arrested
credit for
for
herself.
defrauding elderly people, basically, like, scamming, like, calling your Mima and scamming her,
Mhm.
and had this, like, entire, scheme where she profited a whole bunch. Oh, and there's another character, by the way, who is married to her step-grandfather,
Oh yeah,
just to, like, add to the weirdness.
she's the one who told the one who got arrested that she smelled like hospital. So, it all comes
Yeah.
back to them really.
So it's
But yeah,
always been in kind of a league of its own in terms of it's kind of like it's so camp. It's like the Watch What Crappens guys call it the community theater of housewives, and that's so true.
yeah, I was thinking like it's along like High School Musical type lines where it's just like
Yeah,
something's just so over the top and you just kind of have to watch it and
to
experience
understand.
it for itself. Like,
Yeah, and which highly recommend, and it's one of those, Housewives franchises that's really accessible because there aren't very many seasons, some of them are daunting because 'cause they're in, like, their 18th season. "You're okay, sport." Sorry, guys, that's my elderly dog. But ultimately, Allie and I have actually been talking about Salt Lake City here and there, and we've talked about Monica, and this is where Allie and I had kind of differing opinions because Monica is obviously a victim. Her mother is a narcissistic mother. And I never disagreed with that, but I yes anded and said, something is off. Something
mhm.
there's something that's off with Monica and her mom, and I can't tell if, like, Monica and her mom are in on it or, there's probably it's probably, like, firmly in the middle where I believe her mother is awful, but I always just got a weird, vibe from Monica that there was just something very I don't wanna say sinister, but sinister and calculated about her.
Yeah. And you were never wrong. I just didn't want to see it.
Well, because she's so funny. Like,
She's so funny, like, she provided so much to the season. So
she really
I think that was
she
why I wanted to look past it because like she gave us so much.
she really did, and, it was so amazing as a Lisa Barlow apologist. I know that she's very problematic, but it was incredible to see Lisa Barlow have this, like, formidable force just, like, go at her. And to be clear, like, they both took low blows. Like, I'm not,
Oh yeah.
signing off on age shaming or fat shaming. Like, they both took low blows, but they would just, like, go at each other's throats. Then they kind of, like, like,
Yeah.
apologized. But then, obviously that's all gone now. But okay, Allie, so tell them this is going to be so hard to break down for, like,
Okay.
I haven't told Patrick about this yet, even. Like, how do we explain to non Housewives viewers what happened and why it was just, like, so historic?
Yeah. All right, let's go. So, basically, we knew there was this moment coming all season where Heather, one of the OGs from the show, gets this phone call when they're on vacation that sends her into a whirlwind, like freak out moment, pushes, the camera guy away, doesn't want to be filmed, and like that doesn't happen that as often in Housewives as you would expect. Like, it
Mhm.
happens every once in a while, but, like, it's not very often that they, like, really try and, like, push a cameraman out of their room. So we knew
And
this
the
moment was
term,
coming.
not to interject, but that's what we call breaking the fourth wall. So
Yes.
it's always a big deal when it happens.
Yes, and it's, like, one of everybody's favorite things when it happens because that means something crazy is happening. And so we knew this moment was coming, and we go through the whole season, and as Beth said, Monica, there was always something kind of off about her and kinda how she talked about both herself and the other women, and like tried to plant, like she was always kind of stirring the pot, but it kind of
Mhm.
seemed like other women were helping her do it, but we learned a lot about that. So basically it comes out in the final episode. Heather gathers the OGs around and they have like a Godfather style meeting on the beach in Bermuda, and she like tells them in the most dramatic monologue ever
Yeah.
that that Monica is actually behind this Finsta account that has been trolling them for like 4 years. And
Yeah.
then she's like, I'm going to confront her at dinner and I need you guys to back me up. Again, the
And when
most
we say
dramatic. Oh,
when we say Finsta, to be clear, that is a fake Instagram account. So
oh
that
yeah.
means that she has been running this Instagram account under like some sort of
Reality on tease.
reality Von Tease.
Yep.
And it like the production of this is like we can't even do it justice, but they like keep doing flashbacks and then they fast forward
There's
and
music and like
they yeah, they they like we see like the previews and then so as
4
Ali
hours
said, yeah.
earlier.
So this Finsta account has been like trolling all of the women for 4 years, which is like a big faux pas, I would imagine, in casting. Like you don't like we can fuck with each other on screen, but we're not gonna take part in fake Instagram accounts. I say that, but like some of them I feel like are in the pockets of some of the other big Bravo
That's
accounts.
That's what I'm thinking, and I'm intrigued, and I'm jumping ahead here. I
Yeah,
don't
no,
know. I'm
that's okay.
gonna go off on this tangent. Actually, no. Let's go ahead with okay. So Finsta faux pas. Uh, they decide to confront her. What happens next?
Yeah, so they like set up this game. Housewife, they love to play games,
They
and
do.
they go into it with the four OGs knowing about reality Von Teese. And we could not, again, like their reactions, it was theater. This is why we call this the community theater. Like Lisa Barlow was like, "What? Oh my God. Oh my God." And Meredith was just like being Meredith.
Oh my God!
And
You know she
come
popped a Xanax before that meeting.
Oh, well, come to find out, Meredith knew before the trip, and
Yeah.
so that's why she was probably barred out the entire time. So they go
Right.
into this dinner with the core four knowing what's going on, and they're setting up a game that's like, I have my suspicions about you, and they all have names. And then there's one straggler, Angie K, who was not in the know. So that was also just like an added humor element. Like she had
Just
no
silly.
idea what was happening.
Oh,
But they confront her, and Heather, the one driving this, does it in an incredibly dramatic way and was like, I have suspicions about you, Monica. I think that you are not who you say you are. And then it was like this big reveal.
oh my God. And then everybody lost their minds, is basically like there was so much yelling.
Yeah,
Like Beth was saying, like Lisa Barlow gets some wave of energy over her and jumps up from the table. And like it was just, Whitney moves her chair away from Monica. And mind you, this was a Bermuda Triangle dinner.
yeah,
So like there's six of them, so there's two at each table making a triangle. So
yeah,
once Whitney moves away from Monica, it's like five against one, just like going at her. Like
yeah,
it was so chaotic, and like, and then I don't know, there's just a bunch of screaming. Angie almost throws a plant, and then Heather gets up to deliver her like final monologue of the season and is just like, we have done this before. We've lied for people before. We did it with Jen. We're not going to do it with you. I went all over this country on a book tour where I lied and about how Jen gave me the black eye, which is like the big reveal from season 3 because they went on a trip then and Heather woke up, air quote, woke up with a black eye and couldn't remember how she got it. And now in like this final monologue of the season reveals that Jen gave her the black eye. So I don't really get what that had to do with this Monica situation. I mean, that was confusing
I
to me.
Well, this is where I feel like Heather lost the audience
Yeah,
because, she had the audience on her side with,
totally.
figuring out that there was an infiltrator among them who'd been deceiving them and
Yeah.
bullying them on Instagram. But Monica, I thought, did a really good, and when I say good job, I mean that loosely, like in the context of this discussion, being like, I was exposing Jen Shaw. Jen Shaw is in federal prison for defrauding the elderly people, and I'm not going to apologize for that.
And and she
So,
said, she was like, the videos that I took of her screaming at her employees were used on
mhm.
that account, but she was an abuse and she was like, she was an abusive boss, and
Yeah.
like this was our way of like kind of, taking her down and like taking her down a peg. And yeah, and I do think Heather really did that last monologue. I was just like, where I didn't
I
connect
know.
the dots.
Yeah, it's like you're gonna have a hard time. I mean, obviously, there's the factor that, okay, somebody who is capable of pulling off a heist to this extent is iconic in their own way, but they're also a little bit psychotic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I understand, like, from that angle, having somebody around you who is capable of being that deceptive and calculating is very unsettling. But
Mhm.
but Heather walked right into the trap of, reminding us and Monica how close they were to Jen Shaw and how they still defended her even after she was arrested on camera. Like we saw
Right.
FBI agents like come to her house. And then it's like, well, yeah, you guys, that was a little bit cringe, Heather, to watch you just like ride or die for somebody
Right.
who took advantage of the elderly.
Yeah,
So, and it's like convenient that now you can change your tune and she is in federal prison.
right. And I think the interesting thing to me will be, because I saw in the preview for the reunion that Angie, or not Angie, Monica made a burn book, right?
Yeah.
And I am wondering if in the burn book it is the housewives things that they have sent in to that Instagram account about other housewives. Because she said there's like
Ooh.
story and like you guys were our number one fans. I can only imagine like what if Lisa Barlow sent in like some item about like Heather at one point or Whitney, and like that's what's in the book. Like
Yeah.
that's my fantasy, because I did see today also that after they taped the reunion, Mary, Meredith, and Whitney followed Monica on Instagram again.
Oh my gosh. This is the thing about Salt Lake City is the shifting alliances. I can't even keep up with how I feel. I flip-flop
Me
every
too.
single episode. I'm just
Me too.
like, I know that none of them are particularly likable or good. I mean, I think Heather Gay might be a good person, but she is
I think so.
spineless.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just like none of them are particularly likable. I know Whitney gets under a lot of people's skin. I think she's so funny because of how just completely clueless she is. Like when she tries to
Same.
fight, she makes no goddamn sense.
It's so
And
fun.
I think it's incredibly funny.
So good.
Um but yeah, I mean, it's one of those for you non-Housewives fans, it's one of those episodes that's like going to be a paradigm shift. It's going to be a game changer, almost in
Mhm.
the way that Scandal was, where it's like nothing else is ever going to compete with this. Like they just set another bar. And it's also like, I don't know if we should expect Housewife. We're gonna have to like reset our expectations as a fan base. Like, obviously, I don't wanna normalize fans, like, infiltrating housewives. I think in some ways it's kind of entertaining, but that's kinda happening right now on Married to Medicine. I won't get into it, but,
Mhm.
because Allie and I have sort of gone on enough of a tangent, for those of you
Yeah,
who are not clued in, and it probably doesn't make a lick of sense if you don't watch The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Watch this episode. It is I mean,
you
it should be nominated for an Emmy. I think Monica
mhm.
should get a Pulitzer for her. This is investigative journalism. I
True.
mean, it's just, yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, with that, what's your next one, Allie?
All right. Well, I know I feel like we're taking, this isn't going to be as short as we had hoped. So
Well, and we're like, well, this isn't a big pivot because it's Bravo related.
yeah.
So
Well, for those of you who didn't watch CNN's New Year's Eve show and watch Andy Cohen get drunk again, which is always hysterical, Andy and Anderson hosted, as they always do. And John Mayer called in from a cat cafe in Tokyo. And there was just cats everywhere. And I mean, just that in itself was pretty comical. But Anderson Cooper could not control his giggles. So if you haven't seen the clip, just go watch it. It's just Anderson Cooper giggling, and it's the funniest thing ever. Like the two of them just could not get a handle on themselves. And you know,
so
I'm just
funny.
happy we bullied CNN into allowing them to drink again. So thank
Me
you, CNN.
too. Me too. And obviously make sobriety cool. Big fans of sobriety. However, it was just always so fun to see Anderson and Andy drink and get a little bit tipsy on
Mhm.
live TV. I think that Andy probably crossed the line when he, went on a rant about the mayor at the end. And I think that that just kind of scared them
Uh,
off a little bit.
yeah, I could see
And
that,
I
but
think I think
we're
some
back.
of them were overserved too in the past. So I think this year they were like, you get one shot on the top of the hour, and that is it. And it worked.
That
Hey, we
makes
love, we love a compromise, right?
Yep. Yep. Just give the people what they want in some way.
Yeah. Well, my next one is also tied to the CNN New Year's presentation, but so Travis Kelsey, main main topic on the pod, frequent topic on the pod. There was an article released about him in the New York Times that was really interesting because his publicists released it, and they were talking about Travis Kelsey and their basically like how they've been trying to make Travis Kelsey famous for a while, like back to the Catching Kelsey days, and how this has been a long, kind of like a long process for them because Travis has always wanted to do something after football. The things that are cool about it is that his PR team is composed of like his bros from college and growing up. So it's like guys who he's known for a really long time. They talked about, the hustle to get on to Saturday Night Live. I guess when they originally pitched him the Saturday Night Live, people were like, eh. But Travis like popped in and visited them, I think in 2022. Yeah, the year before he actually went on. And so just like worked really hard to cultivate that relationship. And so that endeared me to him so much because Saturday Night Live was like a dream of his. And they really just like outline it. I kind of low key wonder if the point of this article was for these publicists to promote themselves because Travis may have to move on. It was just kind of interesting that publicists were writing an article, and part of they acknowledge like the oversaturation and how that's negative and how they're being mindful of that, but it's like, okay, but you're writing an article.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
that
a
part's
little
a little it's a little interesting. And I know that there's, some tinfoil hat people who are gonna be like, oh, this proves it. This proves that Taylor and Travis are a PR couple, and I'm just like not even going to entertain that right now because of the material that was interesting, and connected to Saturday Night Live, Bowen Yang. I love Bowen Yang. Bowen Yang and Matt Rogers on Lost Culturistas. They are hysterical. Anytime they go on Watch What Happens Live, I mean, they pop off. They're big Housewives fans. They're so funny. And so they were at the New Year's celebration, and Andy brought up Travis Kelsey's tweets, and Bowen Yang was like, I love Travis. He's a king. I love him so much. And it was just so cute and so funny. And you guys, Bowen Yang, I not to like put him on a pedestal, but I'm like, if you get endorsed by Bowen Yang, then that I feel like that says something. So it was just really fun to see my favorite. Like I was star studded talking about, our favorite Kansas City man. So,
Love it. Love it. Well, that is I didn't see that you had put that we should have 4, so I only had 3 prepared.
okay, yeah,
So
let's touch on this last one because it intersects with like everything that we talk
yeah,
about. Oh my God. Ugh. Okay, I'm gonna work really hard to not get into the hackle of it all. But by now y'all have seen how Aaron Rodgers speculated that Jimmy Kimmel would be on the Einstein list that was going to come out.
Epstein.
Epstein. Einstein. Oh my God. I'm conflating the predators, you guys. I
Right.
was thinking Weinstein. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, on the Epstein list that was going to come out. And he did it in a very reckless way on Pat McAfee's show. And he's a hate fixation of mine. Like I just like do not like that guy.
I feel like
Um,
we've talked about them before, but if we haven't, I'm sure we will soon. Like,
Yeah, let's put a little needle in that to just like go
yeah,
on a little bit of a tangent about why he's so insufferable. But him consistently bringing Aaron Rodgers on a show is one of the reasons why.
yeah,
And Aaron Rodgers went after Jimmy Kimmel, I think because Jimmy Kimmel made a joke about him once, in his
probably.
anti-vax bullshit and joked that he was on this list. And Jimmy Kimmel basically threatened him with litigation, was like, that is a serious allegation.
And
STFU.
yeah, he retweeted it, but he also did it in a Jimmy Kimmel way where he wrote, "Dear AAS hole, since Aaron, AA," like, I was
Yeah,
just like, of course he had to throw a jab in there. Like,
yeah,
good on you,
yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel. But yeah, the list has come out. Kimmel's not on it, so I hope he
Yep,
sues him. Like,
yeah.
get your lawyers
Well,
ready.
yeah, and it's gonna be interesting. I mean, I haven't, I haven't followed along too closely with how Pat McAfee is backpedaling, but my understanding is that he is a little bit.
Yeah, I heard.
So it will be interesting to see if he faces any backlash and is or if it's going to be one of those things like cancel culture does not exist for mediocre white men.
Mhm.
We'll just have to see. Stay tuned. We'll
Yep.
talk about it again next week if there's anything to say. But
Yeah. But, yep, just go Jimmy, sue him.
yeah, go Jimmy. And I'm not even like the biggest Jimmy Kimmel fan. I mean, I don't care either way, but definitely strongly on his side on this one. So
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah,
well, that
so
was a fun little this is bite-sized in comparison, I
in
think, to
comparison,
what
yeah, it was good.
yeah, comparatively.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. It was fun to just like nail the highlights and what we thought
Mhm.
was amusing about it. So, to outro, or to say goodbye to y'all, we will just briefly discuss what's going on in our sports world. Y'all already know. I mean, if you're Chiefs fans, y'all already know we clinched our division once again, even after like the worst season in the Mahomes era. But we clinched the division. We are a secure third seed in the playoffs. Anything can happen in the playoffs. I'm not holding my breath. We may be a one and done team, or we may win the Super Bowl. I honestly think it's going to be one or the other. So yeah, we'll just have to see. Stay tuned.
Playoff season football is you never know what's gonna happen.
Right.
Um, well, we need a few things to happen for the Steelers to make the playoffs. There's currently 5 different scenarios,
Oh my,
in order for them to make it. The easiest one is that the Steelers win and Buffalo loses.
okay.
Um, the If the Steelers lose, then we need Houston and Indianapolis to not end in a tie and Jacksonville to lose and Denver to win. So that's the
Wait,
craziest scenario.
Not Denver, because they're not in the playoffs.
Uh, it says Jacksonville lost and Denver win. I don't know. It must have something to do with the rankings. Who knows? This is on
Because
Steelers.
the Chiefs eliminated Denver.
Maybe Jacksonville's playing Denver, and that's what they're saying is that Jacksonville has to beat or
Oh.
no, or that Jacksonville has to lose to Denver. That's probably what it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's what it is. So,
Okay.
yeah, the Jacksonville needs to lose. if the
Okay.
Steelers tie or
That makes
lose.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got confused. Okay.
Well, it was written stupidly. So, but yeah, Steelers win, Buffalo loses. That's the number one scenario. I
Mhm.
mean, we have not been good. Even if we make it, I don't expect to go very far. But yeah, playoff football can be crazy, and we've seen weirder things. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, and Steelers are a household name. I mean, they're one of those, franchises who, when you think about NFL football, a lot of people think of the Steelers or Green Bay or Dallas
Those,
Cowboys, right? Those are
they're
kind of
always
like the
good.
three.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so yeah, I mean, I hope you guys make it. It'll be interesting. Callie and I, or I keep calling you Callie because I have a really good friend named Callie, who I talk to every day too. So, I'm gonna make her listen to this just because she was named so many times. I think she usually does. But Allie and I are gonna be beefing lightly,
Yes.
if the Chiefs and Steelers play each other. Even though I think it would be kind of funny if the Steelers beat the Chiefs. That would just be, I don't know.
It would
Chiefs fans
be,
are gonna hate me. Oh my God, don't hate me, you guys. I want the Chiefs to win. I'm like
yeah.
honestly super aggro about the Chiefs in a way that I probably shouldn't be. So, but anyways, those are the things that are going on in our lives. And
Yeah.
we will be back with y'all next week.
See y'all next week.
Bye.